What's up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, back at you tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about one of the best places to fish in Texas in the wintertime, and that is power plant lakes. Now, we've already done breakdowns on several of the other power plant lakes that are out here in Texas, as far as Welsh and Brandy and Martin. But now it is time to switch gears, go a little bit west. This one was shut down for COVID for a long, long time, but it opened back up this year in October. So it's time to talk about the breakdown, and that is Squaw Creek Reservoir. This place is absolutely fire. You've got to go check it out. Let's go do the breakdown. All right. Before we jump into Squaw Creek, the first thing we always do is go out to the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page and just see what this lake is all about. So let's take a look at the characteristics here. Location is off of FM 144 between Glen Rose and Granbury. The surface area of this lake is pretty small, 3,272 acres. Maximum depth, though, is 125 feet. This thing was impounded in 1977. The fluctuation, I definitely agree with this, says that it's 1 to 2 foot. It is very, very clear water as well. It is managed by the Luminant Power Company, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But as long as let's just keep going down really quick. The fish species that are in this lake: largemouth bass, channel catfish, crappie, white bass, and very, very predominant is the tilapia in this lake. So we go over here to the lake records. You can see that the largemouth bass in this lake, the largest one was 1117, caught back in 1997. I can tell you that you can get a lot of numbers on this lake. I haven't caught a lot of huge fish on this lake, but definitely a lot of numbers. As we go down here, it says, as far as angling opportunities, largemouth bass is good. I would put it at an excellent. Channel catfish is excellent. I would agree with that. Crappie, sunfish, and then tilapia is pretty good as well. You can go down here and kind of read about the cover and the structure. It really says, there's not a lot of aquatic vegetation in this reservoir. Then it kind of gives you some tips on when to fish and where to kind of find the fish during certain parts of the year. Now, the one thing that I did find that was interesting here was on the tilapia side. If you went out there and you wanted to just go get a bunch of tilapia to eat, it says that you are allowed to use a cast net for the tilapia to harvest them. So definitely something to think about if you're going out there just to bass fish, but you also want to bring some fish home to eat. Tilapia are really good to eat. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over and let's talk about the Google Earth side of this thing. Actually, wait, before I do that, let's switch back. We have to go in and talk about what you have to do here in order to fish this lake. So I'm going to go over here to the fishing page. And once you go to the fishing page, you can also just, link this thing. I'll put a link in the description for you. But in order to fish this lake, it's only open on Thursdays, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think Sunday as well. Let me look at their online reservation. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. So they're only open 4 days a week. It is private. You do have to come in here and fill out a form, kind of fill out your information in order to reserve your spot. They do fill up. Looks like right now, as we're making this video, around Christmas is definitely open, especially around the new year. So it could be a good time to go out there, but you definitely have to do that. I think last time I remember it was $30 or $35 to go fish it, something like that. But go check it out. You got to go out to the Luminant website. I'll put this down in the description. So let's switch over and let's go over to the Google Earth side and let's talk about what we found. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the Google Earth side of Squaw Creek. Now, this one was very, very interesting from a breakdown standpoint. There wasn't a lot of fluctuation in the water, so it doesn't really do much here. Obviously, it's a power plant lake, so they can kind of control the fluctuation of the lake itself. So there's not a lot from a Google Earth standpoint that I could share with you, but I believe what I found is almost magical because it's always worked well for me when I've gone out here to Squaw Creek. I've only gone a couple times, but both times I've gone, it's been an awesome, awesome trip. You can catch a ton of fish at this lake. So let's go ahead and jump in and let's talk about what we did find. Now, over here on the left-hand side, I've got this broken down by a couple different things. We've got some random stuff, just there's not a lot of it. So 2 different areas for riprap. There's some down by the dam here, and some down by the outflow. And then you've also got beds, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Now, these are not, at least I don't think they are. I don't believe that they're bass beds, but what they are they're tilapia beds. And there's a lot of tilapia that's in this lake, and the bass love to eat the tilapia. So if you find the tilapia beds in those areas and fish around those areas, those tend to be hot spots for finding the bass. We've also got a couple different channels that are out here. That's what you see here in the green. So just kind of showing you where these channels come in at. The creek channels that are out there. There's a few of them that come into this lake. There's a bigger one that's up here that's pretty good. And then there's one over here. I believe it's right in here. Oh, here it is, back up in here. That's pretty good as well. So there's lots of them anyways. We'll talk about them. I may have missed one there, but we'll talk about them all here in just a second. We also have ditches that are out there. So a couple different ditches that are out there as well. Let me take these off so you can see these. So here's the ditches. The ditches are going to be in the orange. You can't see them because the offshore stuff, but the ditch is going to be right there in the orange. And then we also have all these different offshore hotspots. So I definitely think that this is going to be a lake where offshore is definitely going to be something that comes into play, something you can take advantage of. I've definitely done it myself and love it, but it's also one of those lakes that has so many fish in it and so awesome. You could literally throw on a crankbait and just go hammer down on the bank and have really good success as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing. I'm gonna select everything back except for the offshore stuff. And what we're gonna do is pull this over to the left. We're gonna zoom in here and we're gonna get started. So as far as the dates go, as I said, this one was really, really tricky because the water just doesn't fluctuate much here at all. But if we take this back to 2021, that seemed to give me one of the best images that I could find. And the reason why I say that is because you'll see right here as I zoom in here, I need to be able to see that. And what that is right there are tilapia beds, and that's what we're going to talk about. That's almost all of the the spots that I could find. The rest of it is just a rocky bank line, not a lot of laydowns, stuff like that I could find. Not saying that they're not there. If you go out and you do some scanning, I'm sure you're going to find a lot more stuff, but this is what I could find from the imagery. So let's go ahead and start here at the dam. We'll work our way up and we'll come back down, and then we'll switch over. We'll finish out this video talking about the offshore spots. So down here by the dam, it's one of the few places where you actually have some riprap. So if you want to just go do some serious cranking and be in a high percentage area, definitely the dam is always a good place to fish no matter where you're at. Also up in here, this is where it starts getting interesting. So there are some beds up in here. So if I go up here, and I know you're like, what? That's like a pond dam. There's no fish there. Well, there's a couple things here that I really like. One, if you look up here, here's the tilapia beds. And two, if we go back, so 2022, the water's down actually some of the lowest right now, like in this image. But if we go back just a couple years, this is 2016. There's actually a boat back here. And notice how he's positioned right up against this bank line, because my guess is he's probably throwing over here and taking advantage of the beds that are back there. Now, the other thing that I really like about this area, let me get back to a good image. Thing I like about this area is this tree line that's right here. And there's also, if you look, there's a nice little, appears to be a different kind of rock pile there that's different than kind of everything else around it. So that tree line could be a really good tree line to flip around. And then obviously if the water's up high enough, you can get back in here, working those beds could be pretty productive as well. Now, interesting on this one, because a lot of these beds are really close to areas where there's creeks or some kind of moving water. But in this case, there are beds just right out here off the edge of this point. So it might be an interesting spot to go check out and see what's going on out there. Now, as we move up in here to the really to the second pocket, I guess you could say, from the dam, let me zoom back to show you where I'm at. So we went in here. Now we're going to go into this pocket. As we zoom into this pocket, there's some more of those tilapia beds that are back in here. You can see them again. Notice how the bank line just doesn't really give you much, so I can't really say much. There's some more beds right there, right off the edge of that. Now, you can't go any farther back in here, which I thought you could. So my bad, but if there's some way that wasn't blocked off and you could get back in there, there are several different beds that are back in here. What I was thinking here was basically for the guy that's fishing from the bank line. I know you can fish from the bank line on this lake. I don't know if you can get back in here, but if you could, these would be really good spots. You've also got a little bit of a ditch here with some outflowing water as well. But for you bass fishermen that are on the boat, which is 99% of us, we can't go back there. So the best place would be right here where these beds are. Now, as we come over here, of course, we got some really good points. I really like that point. We're going to go up in here to this next one and go into the very back of it again. And that's where we start getting into some pretty heavy standing timber, but we also get into these beds. So there's some really good beds right here. And then this right in here is just tons of beds. This whole thing is loaded with beds all the way up and down this. So this area in here, I could see that being a really, really, really good spot. To go check out. You've got the creek channel that's marked here too. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of activity in that creek channel. So you could literally just fish up and down that creek channel and probably even follow it out to here, because it looks like that creek channel comes down and swings and it hits the edge of this point right here. And so anywhere basically from this point all the way back into here is going to be a really good area to go check out. Got more beds back in there too. That's probably one of my favorite spots to go look at when I'm out here on the on Squaw Creek. Now coming down here, we're going to come around the point. Of course, we got some pretty good offshore stuff to look at, but really from this point, we're just looking Google Earth. And again, it's all the same, so not much I can mark for you, but we can find these little creek channels that come in. Here's another creek channel, and notice I told you every time there's moving water, we tend to get around these beds. So you can see the beds are kind of scattered along the bank line here, but they're really heavy right in here, right really close to those creek channels. So I'm thinking fishing around the creek channels and fishing the back of the coves, it's going to be a high percentage area. And I remember this water's always warm. This is a power plant lake. So they don't really have the winter time that we're used to. I mean, they have the winter time, but the water does not fluctuate. Now down here, we've also got the main boat ramp. I didn't see too much around the boat ramp, no beds or anything like that. It's really more about finding the creek channels and the little ditches, and that's when you end up finding those beds. As you move further up in here, we get into the first cove just north of that boat ramp. So we're up here now. There's some beds back in here as well. Again, you got a creek that comes through here, and then all of a sudden this thing is just loaded with tilapia beds. Another really good area to go fish around as well. So it's not really even a lot of cover or anything like that. So it's not what we're used to. But I'm telling you, if you go down there and you hit it with some crankbaits or some wobbleheads and things like that, and you disrupt those beds, you will definitely be able to find, and even some swim baits, swimming some swim baits above the top of that. Not only are you going to catch tilapia, but you're also going to catch a lot of bass as well, and a lot of good sized bass. Now, also up in here, we get further up this pocket. We're in Lawler Branch is what it looks like. Really a ton of timber back in here. But again, found the little ditch, found the creek. And then once we found the creek, we found the tilapia beds, and they are all over the place. This whole thing is just scattered with them. Now we're going to keep moving up here. We're going to get further up in this branch. I can tell you one thing for sure. I was out here with my buddy Dan, and we found this creek channel. This is back when we first got the boat, like back in 2017. So we come up here, and I was like, let's just go fish some creek channels. We're actually fishing for catfish. And we were like, let's just go fish some creek channels, see if we can find some catfish. We got right around in this area right here. We followed this creek channel down, obviously picked it up on the graph. And there was a couple different turns that were right in here. There's like a boat lane or something like that that comes through here, and it was right beside the boat lane, but it curved really good. And right on those two curves, those things were loaded with catfish. I mean, loaded. We filled up the whole entire boat with catfish. It was crazy. But there were also some bass down there as well. So don't be scared of, this creek channel is marked, but don't be scared to get on your electronics and stay out in this creek channel and follow it as far down as you can, because there's a lot of activity in that creek channel. All right, so moving down through here, we've got some more beds that are back in here, some more that are in here too. You can't really see these as well. You got to zoom in further, but you can see them right here. They're scattered amongst these trees. And then up here, you can see them. They're just scattered all throughout this bank line. This whole bank line has it. Pretty much from right there all the way to right in there. All right, so we're going to come out of Lawler Branch. As we're coming out of Lawler Branch, just a couple things to look at. There's actually some debris that was out here, and I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like an old, I don't know what it is. It looked like an old refrigerator or something like that, but might be something worth checking out, or if anything, just fun to look at on your graph. We've also got some beds that are back in here. Again, we got this ditch, and there's some beds that are hidden in here. So anytime you see those ditches or those creek channels, you definitely want to go back there and fish around them, because they're going to be high percentage areas. And we'll talk about this offshore spot when we get to the offshore side. We got more beds that are back in here. And ironically, here's your creek channel coming through here. So anytime, again, find the creek channel, find the beds. We're going to move back in here. We're getting down here by the power plant now, almost back to where we started. So we're going to go in here. There's a ditch that comes back here. Not much of a creek, but a pretty good ditch. But around that ditch, the opening to that ditch, you've got lots of different beds as well. You got some pretty good stuff you could flip around here too, around those trees, and probably catch some pretty good ones. And then we're going to move over here. We're going to get out past the edge of the power plant. We're going to zoom back around here to the south side of it. And what we have here is more beds. So as we get into this little pocket, we get over here to the side. I have no idea why. Sometimes they're in weird spots. I don't see any water here. The only thing I can think here is whatever this is on the bank line, this kind of cover, that they like that cover. But you've got some beds that are right here, and then you've got some more beds that are right here in this spot. Now, once you get to here, this is all blocked off. So I guess I could take off that riprap because we don't really need that anymore because you can't get there. And then we're going to move down here. We're going to go down this side. And I don't know how far back in here you can get. It looks like I can get back in here. But if you go down back through here, there's a creek that's back here. Again, there's that type of cover, that grass or whatever it is. They must like that as well. But there's a bunch of beds back in there too, just in that spot. And then we're going to get out of there. We're going to come over here and we are back to the dam where we started. Now, one place that I would check out, and we'll talk about this from an offshore spot, is it looks like, and I don't know this lake that well, so forgive me for you guys that know it really well, but it looks like we've got some output going here. And then that output flows down through here. So you should have a lot of warm water right through here, like really warm water, warmer water than the rest of the lake, if that's what I'm seeing. So fishing around in here could be a really good area to fish around. There's nothing special about the area as far as, anything I can mark for you, but just knowing that if that's where the output is, which it looks like that water's flowing out, that's going to be the warmer water, and that water's going to flow through here and then pump out to the rest of the lake. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over. We're going to talk about the offshore hotspots now and finish this thing up. Well, here we are on our last step of the lake breakdown for Squaw Creek. We're going to switch over here now and look at Navionics mobile app. And I just want to show you the different offshore hotspots that are out here, or at least the high percentage areas to go find some fish. So let's start down here by the dam where we started at the beginning on the Google Earth side. I just want to point out some things here. One would be this little spot right here, this little point. This looks really, really good. Notice the flat top that's on top of it right here. Just looks really, really good. Down by the dam, it's got really deep water close by it. Would definitely be a spot that I would go check out. Next spot would be coming up here. We get off to this first point. You've also got a nice little rounded point here. You got some interesting stuff here, some little breaks going on right here, but I really like how this point sets up. So it'd definitely be one that I would want to take a look at. As we get further up in here to this first pocket, a couple different things to look at right here. You've got like an old pond dam or something like that that's going on right here. But the edges of these, where this creek is, these can be really, really good. So fishing around in here and fishing around right around in there, from an offshore standpoint, I could see those being good. And then the other thing to look at, I didn't mark it here, but notice this little creek channel that comes down here and it swings right here, right against this little bank line right in here. This could be a potential area to go look at as well, right where that swing is. All right, so let's back out a little bit more. Where there's the that first cove, we're going to come back out here. I already talked about this earlier, but definitely this point would be a good point to go look at. It's got a nice, let me see if I can pull this down a little bit. It's got a really nice little tabletop here. Has really sharp breaks on both sides of it, and then kind of steps down as you get out here. So definitely looks like a really good area to go fish around from a point standpoint. Now we're going to go up here. Here's the dam. We're going to move up here. We're going to talk about this little area up in here. Let's go back to the back and we'll just work our way back. But in this first spot, I really like this area right in here. So if you look right here, everything's pretty much the same, but you've got a nice little break that's going on right in here. So I'm wondering if maybe this creek bed doesn't come this way and swing more out this side. It's kind of hard to tell. But definitely something that I would go look at. Also right in here, you've also got, again, another area there where the creek channel is, and you've got a pretty good little break going on right in here. So that creek channel is met up with another one, and then it's swinging right in this area. So that could be a good spot to go look at. We're going to come down here. We're going to get outside of that pocket. Let me zoom back, show you where I'm at. I'm going to come right in here. These 2 points right in here look really, really good. This one's got a nice flat top to it. Has some really good break off the edge of it. This one Not as good, but again, pretty decent little point. I mean, all points are pretty much good if you ask me. You got another point that's right here as well. And then as you move up here, you got a little hidden pond dam that's back in here. So this could be very interesting to fish around. Never even knew that was back there, but it's definitely something that I would go look at. And then as we move further up, we're going to get up in here now. We're going to pull off of this point. This point looks good as well. Kind of the same thing we were looking at, kind of a flat top out in 14, 15 foot of water. Definitely be a good area to go check out, especially just where it's located. We come up here into these little pockets. This spot right in here just looked really, really interesting to me. Obviously, the point's going to be good, but if you get off the edge of the point, I mean, look how sharp of a break this is right here. And then it kind of comes up here into this little flat area. So I'm thinking right in there would be a really good spot to go try and locate them in a really high percentage area. And then now we're up here in this last little pocket up here, this last bigger pocket. This is that area, I believe, or no, it's not. I was thinking it was that area I told you where that creek channel was. But there is a really good creek here. You can see it. You've got a couple different spots that are up in here. One spot I didn't even mark, but would be right in here. You'd want to look right in here where it bends really hard. And then the rest of it would be right here. So this is almost creating almost a bluff wall right here where it's getting really, really deep. And it's swinging right up against that bank line. So that's definitely going to be basically from that point to this point, it's going to be a really high percentage area for you. Moving down here, we're going to get over here. This is kind of the same thing. We got a little flat that's up here, but then right against that flat, some really, really steep area. So right there, right before it becomes flat, that's usually a good spot to try and find some. And then move down here. We've got a little spot right in here that looks pretty good as well. So you definitely want to go check that out. And then I'm going to zoom back. We're going to go back up here. We're almost to the end up here on the north side. There's a pond dam that's up here, so definitely go check that out. And then moving up here, this looks really good too. It looks like this creek channel comes down here and swings right up against this bank line. As I pull it back, you can really see how sharp those contours are. Now, the other thing to look at while you're out here as well, if I zoom back, is you've got a pretty good little creek channel out here. Definitely something you'd want to go look at, see if maybe there's some fish hanging around those ledges or something like that. I've never done it, but definitely would be something I'd do if I go out there next time. Now, if we move up here, there's a little shipwreck or something that's up here. A submerged building is what it says. But go look at around in here. It also looks like there's a little roadbed there as well. So there's a lot of good stuff. Here's the roadbed. And then here's the little buildings, underwater buildings that you could go check out. But this looks like it could have some really good potential with all the underwater cover that's out there. Again, we're getting back in here. This is that creek channel I was telling you about on the Google Earth side that we caught all those catfish in. So follow that creek channel. I know that's a good creek channel, but where these little bends are really good areas as well. Like right there where that mark is. And then even back in here, right where it kind of funnels in and then it starts to open up, this whole flat up in here could be pretty good too. So definitely go check all of that out. All right, so we're going to come down from that side and we're going to look more on the west and the south side. You got some good stuff back in here, which we marked those on Google Earth. But this little spot right in here, right where the creek channel just starts to come up and hit against the bank line, right in there can be good areas as well. So I went ahead and marked that spot. I'm not that confident in that spot, but it's definitely a spot that I would go check out and just see if you can find some fish located there. Maybe you'll end up finding some bait fish or something like that in that location. So let's go ahead and move further down. We're going to go down to this next spot. And if you guys have watched any of my lake breakdown videos, you know that I love these areas where it's really, really steep. And then right when it stops being super steep and it comes up to a point or to a flat, it's like right there on that corner. Those are just magical spots. Now this one looks really good. You got flooded timber. You got a nice point with a flat top on it. You got a roadbed that's out here as well. Just all kinds of good stuff going on right in this area. It would definitely be a spot that I would go look at. Probably one of my first or second spots I'd go look at because I just like the way it sets up. So let's keep moving down. We're going to get down here. Another pond dam is down here, or like a hidden pond. It's got pretty good contours around it as well. Definitely a good offshore spot to go check out. Then moving over here, this is the spot we talked about that I said we'd come back. We talk about when it's offshore, but you've got this really long point that comes way out, and you've got some humps that actually show themselves on this, which we saw on Google Earth. But this whole area right in here is going to be a good area to fish around. Just the way that it sets up, I'm sure if there's any shell in this lake, you could have some shell that's up in here in different areas and things like that. But right in here, there's a pipeline as well, and so really look right in here because I like that spot right in there. I've caught fish there before, so definitely go look at that. Then moving down here, got a couple more spots. Really like this little point that comes out here. This one's not as obvious as all the other ones, but look how sharp this point comes out. I mean, it's pretty flat here, and then it just drops to 16 foot. So you got a pretty good little ledge, or something's going on right in that area to cause that nice little sharp point. Then we're going to move down, getting down here closer towards where the main turn is. But this little point that's right here has a really nice flat top. It's a little bit rounded, just kind of slowly steps down. Really like it. I like the whole area that it's in, so definitely go look at that. And then moving over here, we've got another point that sticks out, which we talked about this one on Google Earth as well, but this point just looks really good. It's just kind of out in the open. It's coming off the bluff, coming off some really maybe not bluff walls, but steeper walls here, and then you got a nice point there. And then back here, this spot looks really good. This is an old pond of some sort, but you definitely have a roadbed here. You've got the pond dam that's right here. Just like how that whole spot sets up. It looks really, really good. We're going to keep moving down. We're almost back down to the dam. We're going to be right here off of this point. Again, another good looking just main lake point. There wasn't anything special about that, but just like how it sets up. And then also over here, if I zoom back here, you've got some really interesting ledges going on right in here. I mean, you're going from basically 15 foot to 60 foot really fast. So maybe looking right in here and just see if there's anything off those ledges. Something's created those ledges, so definitely go look at them. And then we're going to come down in here. This is where I tried to mark us some spots. Obviously, we can't go back there anymore, or not anymore, but it can't go back there. Also back in here, sometimes, these little spots right here, like this little flat point right here that you see, that can be really productive too. Maybe even fishing right here where along that buoy line, you've got something really sharp going on right in here. So you could try that too. But also, sometimes it's good when you find the cut-ins. So right here, you've got a really good cut-in. So basically you're going from 5 foot to 20, 30 foot, just right there in that area. So check out right there as well. That could have some potential. Moving back here, just another spot back here by these creeks. Obviously, this is where all those beds are, but you've got a pretty good little creek swing that's probably hitting right in here. So that could be a potential. Then we're going to move over. We're going to come back out, and we're back here by the dam. The last spot I want to show you is right in here. This spot right in the dam, it's just going to be a good spot, just the way it sets up. The overflow is going to go through there. It's just a really good spot to go look at. Plus, you got some pretty good depth around there. Then we're back to the dam, and that finishes us up for Squaw Creek Reservoir. Hopefully you guys have found this helpful. I know I didn't cover every single offshore spot that was on this lake. That's almost impossible for me to do, but hopefully the ones that I did point out for you guys, you can take full advantage of. Please go out to my website, simplisticfishing.com. You can pick up all these waypoints plus the Google Earth waypoints. We put them all onto a card for you. You basically put it into your card and you're good to go. It will change the way you fish. It makes fishing so much simpler because when you're out there on the lake, there's no guessing of where you need to go. If you get on a certain pattern, if you're on a rock pattern, if you're on this bed pattern on Squaw Creek, you know exactly where all the beds are. If you need to get in creek channels, you know where those are. I mean, it just makes everything so much simpler. So definitely go check it out, simplisticfishing.com. And if you can, check out our sponsor for this video, omniafishing.com. I've got the link down in the description. Don't forget, if you go fish this lake, you need that reservation. So I'll put that link in there too. And until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.